Good afternoon, everyone. So we can see we have Mr. Walia join in. Welcome, Mr. Walia. Hi, Amrita. Hi, Bhakti. Hi, Suma. Thank you for joining in. Mr. Vijay Pathak. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you, Mr. Sandeep. Thank you. Hi, Vaibhav. Welcome, Mr. Kothari. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you for joining in. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to you all. Thank you all for joining in today. Today is our second webinar in the series of webinars that we have announced with our knowledge partner, International Association of Lighting Designers, IALD, which addresses the crucial topic of India's readiness in the circular economy for lighting industry. IALD as knowledge partner will also play a crucial role in planning the knowledge sessions of our first ever hybrid edition of LEDexpo, which is scheduled from 18th to 20th November 2021, IEML, Greater Noida. With this, we aim at connecting the industry both physically and virtually. With this, I would like to introduce to you our moderator for the session, Mr. Dashak Agarwal, who is a junior associate at IALD and is an enthusiastic and committed lighting designer and entrepreneur. He has studied architectural lighting design at the University of Wismar, Germany, and he runs a design practice, Love of Light, based out of India. Dashak's passion for the work he does arose out his curiosity to see how spaces changes when illuminated with artificial light. His work mostly involves luxury living spaces, hotels, and workspaces. Hi Dashak, we welcome you and thank you for moderating this session for us today. Over to you, Dashak.
Hi Deepika. Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be out here. Amazing second session, knowledge session of the LEDexpo with Messe Frankfurt, circular economy lighting with India's readiness. Before we start off, we'd like to have the first poll question, please. The demographics. What is the nature of your business? Lighting designer, lighting manufacturer, dealer, distributor, retailer, architect or interior designer, development, construction, others. If everybody could put in their votes, please. Great, we have the results already. We have a 33% lighting designers, 17% lighting manufacturers, 33% dealer, distributor, retailers, and a 17% of other audience. I think it's a nice mix. Of course, we'd love to see more architects, interior designers, or developers, but I think it's a good mix of the audience that we have today. Slide, please. So on this slide, what we see, what is circular economy? The lady in the photo is Ellen MacArthur. Ellen MacArthur is an English yachtswoman who in 2005 set a world record for the largest solo non-stop voyage around the world in her first attempt. Ellen's competition at sea led her to this change of career direction where she realized that uh, success would lead by how you manage your limited resources. That is boat on the boat, that is food, water, and fuel. They are directly linked to success. So the foundation, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, which is a pioneer in the field of circular economy, quotes that a circular economy is a systemic approach to economic development designed to benefit businesses, society, and the environment. In contrast to the linear economy, which speaks about take, make, use, and waste, circular economy is regenerative by design and aims to gradually decouple growth from the consumption of the finite resources that are easily available. It also means working in closed loops in which raw materials, components, and products lose their value as little as possible. Renewable energy sources are used, and system thinking is at its core. Slide, please. What is the need of circular economy? The previous slide, please. Thank you. Why are we talking about circular economy? What is the need suddenly? Why is this whole discussion? Of course, to increase the availability of resources, reduce the amount of waste, and reduce environmental impacts from production and consumption phases. But moving towards a more circular economy could deliver benefits such as reducing pressure on environment, improving the supply chain, increasing competitiveness, stimulating innovation, boosting economic growth, creating jobs, and so on. I could just go on. But very core to the current industrial problems is reduction of material costs, the cost to the customer. As a result, into the transition of circular economy, companies are looking to reduce material costs and developing newly markets where profits can be made. In many sectors, raw materials are a very high cost item. The extraction of raw materials and the uncertainty about their supply in a linear economy are driving the prices of these raw materials at skyrocketing prices. Circularity can therefore offer new profits through low costs, increased security of supply chain, and tighter cooperation and a more robust supply chain. Another personal favorite, personal thought, which I feel is very strong, is the reduction in the emission of greenhouse gases. Right, by following the principles of circular economy, we look to decrease the emission of greenhouse gases by a drastic measure. Bottom line, why? Consumers to be provided with more durable and innovative products, and that will increase the quality of life and save them money in the long run. Slide, please. So, easy question. How are we going to do it? How is it going to happen? Key 4 principles: reuse, repair, manufacture, recycle. This is, we Indians as such are very good at it. We have the resources we tend to hang on to things. We tend to, if something goes wrong, unlike the West, we tend to try to repair it, try to reuse it, and try to work within the cycle. And with recycle being the last option, because when a product goes to recycling, the original value of the product is almost as good as zero. Though it is an important part of the whole system, but I think the value is really minimized. Slide, please. Here are some thoughts on how circular economy could be achieved, some points of discussion. Legislation. In the EU, there's an Article 4 which suggests, quote, to ensure that light sources and separate control gears can be replaced with the use of commonly available tools. In India, the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology has launched a product-linked incentive scheme to boost large-scale financial incentives in domestic manufacturing of electric components and semiconductor packaging. Another thought is product design. The core, I think that it's before anything else, the product is to be designed, right? With respect to the lighting industry, durability of housings and designed for long-lived componentry with possible information retrieval on their usage. There is a whole lot of talk about IoT with inbuilt sensors and drivers and communication boards integrated. So I think this could really add on to the data knowledge that is shared. Components, we typically know what are the components that could possibly fail in a luminaire, in a fixture, electronics. Having extra fixing holes, having some mechanical leeways, having some thermal leeways, and the ability to change the light source, beam angles, the chips, basically different components in a fixture that could go wrong. If the product is designed smartly, I think it would really bring in back to the circular economy. Digital passport, I think, is catching up now. A lot of manufacturers are giving data on the life cycle of the product, where it is made, what is the product origin, composition, repair, dismantling, and even end of life handling. How would this product become end of life? And now with the barcoding and scanning, with a smartphone, you get all the data. 3D printing, interesting topic, which we will discuss at a later stage. It talks about a lower carbon footprint, production on demand when as and when needed, rapid prototyping, eventually leading to cost saving. In India, manufacturers have actually started exploring this, but not at a mass level. Can we now have the second poll question, please? Which of the following, according to you, is the most important for circular economy? Reuse, repair, manufacturing, recycle. All right, so we have the answers: reuse 15%, repair 20%, manufacturing 20%, recycle 45%. So I think it's more on recycle, but I think it's a good perspective. Slide, please. The speakers, the panel discussion today. On my left, I have Mr. Akash Kakkar. Akash formed his company LSI in 2000, prior to which he was into the electrical contracting business of his family. He has over the years gathered immense product knowledge and brought to India some big companies. He's also the managing director of LED India, for whom he has set up the Indian production facility. Akash enjoys a healthy reputation amongst his peers and is considered a role model for building high-quality lighting brands in the market. Hi, Akash. Welcome.
Hi, Dashak. How are you? Thank you so much for the lovely words.
Thank you. On the screen on the right is Kishore Shetty, currently heading Airco Lighting GmbH business in India. Kishore is a lighting professional with over 24 years of diversified exposure in sales, marketing, project management, and lighting applications. An electrical engineer and business management graduate by education, Kishore has acquired his understanding of lighting technologies and business management through his continuous learning curve with multinational brands like GE, Philips, Targetti, Louis Paulson in India and Middle East. Hi, Kishore. Welcome to the discussion.
Thank you, Dashak. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for having me on the panel.
Great to have you guys. So the discussion, I'll be talking about the first question. Let's get to the core or the heart of this panel discussion. The first question, which is directed to Akash and Kishore. Akash, if you could go first. My question for the discussion is, circular economy requires building products with future-proof components that can be easily upgradable and serviceable to last longer. What, according to you, are the key future-proof lighting components that can be easily upgradable and serviceable?
All right. So, Dashak, thanks for inviting me. And you did introduce me as the managing director of Readiness, but I think I'll also add I've also been involved with a company called Iguzzini for the last 20 years now. And I have been responsible for its brand building and whatever it is today in India for the last 20 years. So this question of yours would be more relevant for Iguzzini and as a manufacturer of high quality architectural lighting company rather than Linear also, but Iguzzini has a much larger perspective on this topic per se. So I'm going to speak on behalf of Iguzzini on these points. And when you say the possibilities of upgrade, the experience that I have had over the years is that upgradation is a very good topic to talk about, but practicality of it is something that I always question. So especially from an architectural lighting company perspective, which we are. So, I mean, when we talk about products such as floodlights and downlights or any other kind of a product that we use on a day-to-day basis, it's very difficult to be able to actually speculate, upgradation over a year or many years. The only product that comes to my mind, which definitely qualifies for this category, is something for area and street lighting, where we've traditionally used regular models, modular systems in our as a light source in our light products, where the upgradation is definitely possible. So street lighting comes to my mind as an area where definitely we've had situations where clients have and could possibly upgrade. Now, I'm talking only about LED to LED. We're not even going back to the traditional lamp source to an LED. We're only talking about an LED to LED upgradation. So let's say the first professional street lights which were deployed in urban areas goes back about 8 to 10 years. That's when we did the first urban lighting projects replacing conventional lamps in Europe. So today, I don't have statistics right now. We could share that later with you. But today is the time actually we could check if there are possibilities of clients going and upgrading their technologies. What we do, of course, use standard equipment such as the Zaga or the NEMA sockets on our street lights, which have become a standard today. I think with all good manufacturers, where third-party products can be integrated, like sensors, etc. So yes, upgradation on that aspect is a known fact. But as such, on other architectural fixtures, for me, an upgrade is something which is a good topic to discuss, but a little impractical in my opinion.
Fair enough. Thanks, Akash. That's a good perspective. Kishore, your thoughts on this, please.
So before I begin to explain my perspective on this particular question, I would pick up a few words from your own question where you use the phrase or the key objective as to last long. The whole idea of circular economy is to make sure the product serves its life as long as possible. And to explain this phrase as longer life, we also want to simplify your brief on circular economy with regards to product life cycle in lighting. So if I put it in simpler words for our audience, I would rather call it as birth stage, life stage, and not death stage, which was the linear economy, but rebirth stage. The reason I'm trying to rename these terms is linked with my explanation. So what we at Toko believe, and I also as individual believe strongly, is that for a fixture to last long, the care should be taken at the production stage, at the design and manufacturing stage. A well-designed and manufactured luminaire with all its components, which are of high quality, will kind of eliminate the requirement of your second term in your question of serviceability. You really don't need to service a product if it's well built in first place. Why worry of step number 2 if your step number 1 is strong enough? Then comes the part of upgradability. Now here, I would say this is more linked to the rebirth stage, when your fixture has served its purpose for defined performance, and you want to then reuse it in whichever form. Then the question of upgradability comes in the discussion. While I'm not capable to predict the evolution of next light source, which may be better than LEDs as of today, we for sure are visibly noting that the controls world, the lighting controls world is fast changing. So if we take example, we were in phase dim and DALI a decade back, and we're already speaking of Bluetooth, Zigbee. We don't know what else in future. So for sure, LED as a light source is kind of a stable technology available to us as manufacturer, but the digital controls world around light source is kind of fast evolving. So it's kind of become very critical for manufacturer to adapt or incorporate electronics, which has intelligence to adapt to such kind of environment, to make sure that the fixtures are either interchangeable or upgradable in near future, long-term future, etc. To give an example, which I of course don't intend to show you the products, but in ERCO fixtures, I don't know if you can notice here, there's a little cap on near my hand, and that's the intelligence brain unit within the fixture, which we launched last year, where you can interchange between a Bluetooth to Zigbee to DALI, and possibly, and I can't claim it as a sure thing, mostly our R&D people know it, but possibly can also take care of future control system. So this is one component I can think of as a component within the fixture that can take care of, let's say, making it future-proof.
Great, perfect. I think it was quite a nice start to the discussion and a very some insightful thoughts. This is something personally that I'm really interested in is 3D printing. Kishore, as a representative of an internationally reputed manufacturer, how has 3D printed contributed to the circular economy within your company?
So I think to understand the role and importance of 3D printing, it's very important that we understand the processes which are parallel in manufacturing, something which we refer to as die casting, metal extrusion, or injection molding. Each of these processes has its own distinct advantages, at the same time limitations, as we call it, for each of these processes. Now, if I have to list certain key advantages of 3D printing, one is quick turnaround time, but limited to smaller quantities. It, of course, has a very low or small capital cost because there's not tooling involved. Due to these advantages, 3D printing is already widely adapted at ERCO at R&D stage and early stage prototypes. So I think because of its advantages, it's quite clear. It allows us to have multiple changes during the design stage before we arrive at a final product design. And of course, minimizes the wastage related to human in terms of time, material, or I would say financial resources, which in a way is a principle of circular economy. We want to have a lean management which involves product and services. However, 3D printing is not yet there when it comes to, for example, optical components. The purity of 3D printed polymers, or if I link it with housings and metal, housing and heat sinks, which are 3D, let's say, if you have to do 3D metal printing, they're not yet there for the reasons as uniformity of material in case of metal or purity of polymers in case of optical components. So because of its limitations for large quantity manufacturing, or I would say for quality production in a continuous way, 3D printing is still some time away. We don't see it happening. Of course, we have adapted for final finished products. Some products I would simply say are like this, the honeycomb lures, which are attachments, are actually 3D printed in a final product design, but not the entire fixture.
Thanks, Kishore. I think it's a good insight. Akash, this question, I'm going to jump to the lighting as service. Lighting as a service, right, is a new business model within circular economy that removes financial hurdles and relieves owners of the hassle of ownership and maintenance. An all-in-one managed contract service, which covers maintenance, optimization, service efforts, as the owners only pay for the light they use. What could be the benefits of using this service, and as the lighting technology is evolving, right? What could you think could be the advantages, pitfalls of introducing lighting as a service in India? Keeping in mind your background initially with the family business of doing contracting, right? So this is also a type of contracting, right? You're taking in a total project as including the fixtures, the maintenance, and the life cycle of it. So what are your thoughts on it, Akash?
So it's an idea which has been already started internationally, I think, and there are countries and there are already projects which are examples of this kind of an operation. And in India too, there are conversations happening, and this is an idea which is very useful, in my opinion, to begin with, where you are replacing conventional lamps and then giving them the client the LED products because you see ultimately the whole economics works if it's a win-win for both. So the clients in this case do not wish to invest in capital. let's say the fundamental of this whole process is that the client does not invest in capital. They in turn want to have more operational expenditure rather than a capital expenditure. And the company which would provide this service has to make money as on a let's say long rental or a lease model, and hence they in turn need to show savings to the client for them to be able to convince them. And in that case, the energy saving, especially in India, can be very huge because of the high rate of energy costs in India. Also, the high interest rates which prevail in India, unlike European and other countries. So, if you are going for a model where you're replacing conventional lamps to an LED solution, this is certainly a very convincible and a sellable concept. But yet, there are the challenge is in who will provide this service. So as you mentioned, I come from a contracting background. As a contractor, I can probably imagine, but then there's a huge involvement of funding. You become a bank. You basically are funding a project. So if it's a manufacturer doing it, then there are other factors which you need to take into account. For example, any manufacturer, I don't want to take names, cannot possibly meet the entire demand of a project, be it a hospital or a retail or a railway station or an airport. So there starts compromises where even you as designers sort of could start complaining, because you have, when you design a project, you design it with a neutral mind where you use the right product for the right application. And it's very difficult, frankly speaking, for a manufacturer to be able to meet all your demands. So these are pros and cons that we have to look at. And the biggest con in my mind comes the safeguarding of your investment, because there are no instruments, there are no insurances available. I've done some research and it's very clear. It's a completely insecure loan that you in a way give to your client. So the client could be government, could be a private enterprise, could be a multinational. Even then, there is this sense of insecurity one has. So any manufacturer, first of all, would be very careful of stepping into this. And also, again, with due respect to the legal system in our country, which is not very, watertight and very swift in terms of its, processes, it becomes a bit of a challenge and something which we all as investors typically would look at. But yes, if you look at the finer prints and if you can have an ideal situation, it's a win-win for both. The client who, let's say, could not afford that kind of a quality product, but could afford to give you a rental or whatever you want to call it on a monthly basis, where you're not buying a product, but buying a service. So it could be a very good investment for somebody like, a company, a contracting firm or a manufacturer. But again, there are pros and cons. It's something which has started stemming, the ideas have started picking up, but I think we still need to have some instruments in place where safety of funds, safety of investments can be taken care of. So that's my view on it.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks, Akash. I think quite insightful from a very Indian, from a very localized perspective. Sure, you've worked, with your portfolio, with your background, you've worked with some of the most renowned lighting manufacturers worldwide. How can we bring in circular economy into India? What do you think? Where, according to you, is a good start, or it's already there, and where do we take it?
So I would say it's there as a subject of discussion, for sure. Not only as a lighting as an industry, but across many other industries. Like many new things that come up in our business day-to-day life, the most important for me, I would say, is awareness and education. How it benefits. Unfortunately, I would say the benefits of circular economy are not short-term. They're extremely long-term in nature. So long-term benefits are not usually adapted or accepted faster. But if I have to suggest certain things that needs to be kind of action in few words, manufacturers need to start adapting lean management. By lean management, I mean minimum wastage in both product, services, and resources. You did the poll of what is the most important part, like reuse, recycle, manufacture, etc. The rating for manufacturing was given at 20%, which I think needs to increase, because as I said in my beginning part, better the manufacturing quality, longer the life. Highest poll was for recycling, and hence certain suggestions, if there are manufacturers in the panel, in the audience here, Small changes, and small changes like no glue, no rivet or struts being used in your products makes it easy for fixtures to segregate during recycling process. Just a small little note. If I talk about designers like you are involved in a project, you have to reduce the number of fixtures used in the project. One number less used in your design is one number less produced at the factory. So reduce is for designer. At the end, for purchasers, on behalf of client, buy the best quality fixtures that are available at purchase stage. So circular economy, of course, is not a half an hour subject, but these are the few things I can say for all stakeholders, right? From us as manufacturer, you as designer, client as buyer. These are the things that we need to keep in mind in, I would say, in a smaller, simpler terms.
Perfect. I think it's bang on. I would now thank you, Akash. Thank you, Kishore. I'll open it up for the third poll question, and after which we'll go to a quick round of Q&As. So the third poll question, please. Which of the following aspects of circular economy, according to you, is most applicable in India? Replaceable components, 3D printing, LAAS, lighting as a service. All right, we have the answers. Replaceable components, 57%. 3D printing, 3%. Lighting as a service, 40%. Wow, okay. That is quite interesting that the feedback, I think, is something to think about for everybody to think about. You know, I think my inclination was more towards 3D printing, but it's good to see lighting as a service as well. So we have a couple of questions, right? I will just direct it short. We have Rohit Manudane. It's for both the manufacturers. A question for how are manufacturers practicing evolving to fulfill maximum reuse? If not reuse of luminaires, then reuse of individual components. For example, use of material passports, elimination of single-use plastics in packaging, use of separable materials, etc. I think I'll let Akash take that.
Sure. I am very happy to answer this question because the company I'm representing, Igujini, takes pride in claiming that 96% of the products the components that they use are recycled, which is something that even Kishore mentioned before, that if at the manufacturing stage, the designs are kept in mind where, from cradle to grave situation is going to arise, where the grave has to be at least, is possible to be cleaned up. So we have, as a responsible company, always designed with this mind that the products can be dismantled at the point of death, where plastic is not glued to the aluminum so that, it cannot be recycled. So that's a very good, question. And I think that's something that responsible companies like Igujini are always, keeping in mind. And whenever we design our products, they are designed with this mind that they should be able to recycle the components at the point of death.
Perfect. I have this one question. We have some time for one question. It was from Bhavesh. I think, Kishore, you could take this. How do we reuse dead LED? It's something even I've never thought about. How do we reuse dead LED if a light source is done? I know it's a diode. So is there a process? Is there something that ERCO does in particular of reusing?
So, when it's supplied globally, right? The fixtures are not just manufactured and supplied only in Germany. It's supplied globally. Yeah. As per the WEEE norms, fixtures can be sent back to factory after it's dead. That's one option, but no one opts for that option because of the costs involved in transfer, transport, etc. And then it doesn't support circular economy in any ways if you have to incur cost of transport. So what happens is we have to also understand that now with LEDs as light source, the light fixtures are no more purely electrical products. They are electronics plus electrical products. What do we do with our mobile phones? What do we do with our televisions, which are beyond repair? We then, of course, you put it in blue bin. We don't refer it here as blue bin, but bins that are recyclable. There are now municipalities across India, the larger ones, who collect electronic waste separately, housing societies. So, of course, this question is only applicable for clients who are really conscious and wants to use. It's beyond recycling, right? You want to really break it down and do everything that you can, not to get a monetary value out of a product, but for being environment conscious. So I will have to inform Bhavesh that what you deal, because LEDs are semiconductors, as you rightly said, and hence it has to be treated like an electronic component. What would you do with any electronic component? It's not hazardous. Fortunately, it's not hazardous. So there's no mercury content, there's nothing else. So it has to be treated the way you treat any general electronic components within your other devices. So which means electronic recycling waste.
Perfect. I think we have a bunch of questions which I request the LEDexpo team to email it out to us, and we would be very happy. The panelists would be very happy, I'm sure, to answer them one-on-one. And thank you, everybody, from my side. And I'll hand it over to Deepika at LEDexpo.
Thank you so much, Dashak. Thank you. And thank you all of your participation and support in today's webinar. We request you to please fill in the survey form at the end of the webinar to help us organize and plan many such webinars and seminars. We will be hosting our third webinar on the series of topic, Women and Lighting Profession, Understanding Their Role, on 27th of July 2021. Hope to see you all there as well. Thank you so much and have a lovely evening.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Good day.